Uh, the toy industry currently imports components or fully assembled toys or semi knocked down products in some form or another. The main reason for this is that the the exact quality and the specifications and the technology that is required for toys is not available in India. So this becomes the major stumbling block, and most of the bigger factories are set up as SEZ units or EOU units. The next priority for becoming Atmanirbhar is the trained management team. Now, NIFT and FDDI are two premier institutes in India who have been paramount in transforming the industries that they work with. So fashion industry in India has been transformed by NIFT since the late 1980s when the first, when NIFT started. The Indian garment industry has seen a sea change in terms of not just designing, but in technical resources, in technical thought processes, and in overall concepts of quality and safety. This is something that is lacking in India to a very large extent. Most of the toy industry is entrepreneur driven, and it is led, not the leadership position of the entrepreneur is what is responsible for each company's innovation in terms of quality and productivity. So this is something that we really need to look at so that we can expand our management teams, expand the skills of our management team, and grow ourselves to become international level. A corollary to this is the employee training that is required. Now, making toys is very different from any other industry. You're working on a very small scale. So we're basically miniaturizing our world to work with the miniaturizing our world so that a child can play with it. The tolerances and the sizes that we have to work on are not possible for normal industry. So our employees require a totally different kind of training, and this also is very important if we want to scale. The challenge with this is that the cost of training is quite high. It takes a minimum of 6 months before a worker starts becoming truly productive in and adding value to the process. So we need help from the government to be able to meet this. And the last priority I would like to add on is the concept of quality and testing that we would like to culture of quality and testing that we would like to inculcate into our processes. Now, testing and quality has got certain costs which the industry is currently not compensated by from the market. So this is something that the government should help us in subsidizing it so that we can develop new products and more innovative products that can move, and we can move towards self-sufficiency.
Thank you so much, Amitabh ji. I think these are very, very valuable inputs. So if I understand correctly, what you're trying to allude is that what NIFT has done to textile sector, FDDI has done to the footwear sector, the institutional, which is an eventual face of the toy as an industry, will not only help us to converge various aspects, but also help us to deliver multi-dimensional approach, whether it is skill development, quality testing, even promotion, and so on and so forth, right? So that is what you're coming to. I'm requesting QCI to take a note also. Moving to my next esteemed panel member, Mr. Moiz Kazakbala. Moiz, I would like to take you to a very different dimensions while we are talking about growth. I would like to pick your thoughts in terms of what are the key challenges which are concerning today the quality and the productivity of this particular segment, and how do we really plan to overcome those challenges, if you can help us to understand.
Mohit. Good evening, everybody. Well, like a lot of people in the panel have already spoken about toys being a small industry, small scale units and all. All the challenges of every single small industry comes over here. For example, every small industry has a very low negotiating power. Business is all about negotiating and getting the most out of a deal, right? But every toy company is a small or micro industry, and for them to most of their raw material that they get are from large organization, corporations, all this kind of stuff. We know the example of what's happening in the plastic market today. Rates have gone up by 300%. And I personally know a few companies that actually stopped production for 2-3 months because they just couldn't afford to take on the cost of that plastic raw material. You know, another aspect of supplier having a lot of bargaining power is they don't fulfill their commitments, and there's nothing that a small industry can do, right? The second part where the low negotiating power hurts a small toy company is when it goes to the resellers. There are a lot of new mechanisms, new channels that have come into India in terms of reselling of toys, like the organized, like the online sales. But most of these touch points for the consumer are beyond reach of a small manufacturer, purely because he doesn't have the bandwidth to go and talk to them. And even if he has the bandwidth to go and talk to them, he doesn't know where he stands. So these two are lack of negotiating power is where what hurts them. Another thing, like what Amitabh spoke about, is tricky. But I would like to talk to you about technology. Technology comes in terms of cost of technology, implementation cost, and the third aspect is actually the cost of failure. A lot of technology that we try to implement in your industry, it is success. It will fail. Most of the small industries do not have the bandwidth to accept the loss, overcome the cost, and then retry. Once you fail with the technology, typically the owner of the company will say, nahi karna hai. Because they can't envisage or they can't afford to try and fail again. Let me give you another example. A small company was wanting to implement ERP systems. So first they went in with a local organization and they successfully implemented it. But then when the ownership changed, the terms changed and they couldn't manage the terms. Then they tried SAP Business One and the implementer went bankrupt. So in both the cases, the small company invested money, invested time, invested resources, and got back nothing. So for the third time, when a new company goes and approaches them for investing on ERP, that owner is not going to give him the day of light. In effect, that company will never have an ERP system which will help improve his quality and his productivity. So vicious cycle. So I think these kind of things, and then again, like Amitabh said, training. Once you get new technology, you need new training, you need new people. And like Amitabh again said, it takes 6 months for somebody to be productive. Within 6 months, if you implement new technology, another 6 months for that guy to become productive again. So it's a cost, and only at the very end would you see results. The holding power of a small industry owner is not that much that he can maintain that cyclical cost to achieve the results. That's, I think, what is the main challenge. If we can break that cycle, or if we can help the industry to see how we can achieve the results or reduce the cost, I think it's a game win for everyone.
Live stream हो रही है, अब वो screen आएगी मेरे screen. आप मुझे इधर पे फटाफट डाल दो.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much. I think I agree with you, and to a greater extent, government is also playing a significant role now to open up the sector. What Anil sir has, they are doing market enablement for us and trying to open the economy, creating a buzzword, and especially the toy fair, what he mentioned about. If all those goes in place, plan in place, I think there is definitely going to be a much bigger voice in the industry to produce and also to consume. Once this consumption automatically starts, then I am guessing that production will take its time, and then it will also come through. Now, moving on to my next panelist, I have Bhavesh Sumaya. Bhavesh.
Hi, Mohit.
Hi. So, Bhavesh, just want to understand your perspective that how can India become a key sourcing hub and has a large domestic market for toys at the same time? You have been in this market for years now, and you understand this market very, very clearly. And I understand that you also have some aspirational growth plan. What are the regulatory reforms which we need to embrace in India in order for you to become a leading supplier from India to the globe, and not only fulfilling
India for giving me the opportunity to participate in this. To your point on me spending years in the industry, it's just been 4. I think I pale in comparison to my other experienced colleagues like Vivek, Manu, Amit, and so many others who I think have tremendous amount of experience. So I'm going to come in from probably a very novice point of view rather than one that is experienced and backed with lots of years. So honestly, look, I think if I just step back and look at the journey that I think the industry has been in the recent past, which is like in the last, I think, almost a year and a half, 2 years, and the kind of conversation that I believe have started with the government by having the spotlight almost turned on the toy sector, I think there has already been some amount of progress, to be honest, that I think we've already started and some small steps that we already started making in order to ensure that we are moving towards a place where there are certain positive regulatory reforms that the government has taken so that there is a more conducive environment for manufacturers to to enjoy a better opportunity for looking at this and scaling the business up within the toy industry. So for example, the whole piece around industrial parks and kind of looking at creating toy clusters like the one in Kopal and a couple of others that I've recently heard about, I think is definitely steps in the right direction. There also has been, conversations around working with a couple of institutions in the country to promote design and development. And I think that's something that I think is very, very critical. But what's really interesting here, Mohit, is, and this is also referring to what Amitabh just mentioned a while ago, that because the manufacturing process for toys is in itself quite complex, and also it is actually not at a large scale, right? So, given the variety and given the kind of, proliferation that exists typically for toys, a new toy necessarily, will not be manufactured in millions of units, right? To justify the kind of inputs that go into its manufacture. You'll probably do a couple of thousands or maybe at best 100,000 units to be able to realize the full potential of that particular SKU. So keeping that aspect in mind, it is not that we will overnight get to a place where we are able to completely stop the reliance of importing inputs and components, right? It will be a gradual process. And I think what is really important for us to understand is that, one, we need to definitely create an ecosystem of ancillary industries for components, design, development of cooking, etc., that need to be done indigenously. And for that, what is really critical as a part of regulatory reforms is to resolve any kind of constraints that are that might occur to first, in the short term, ensure that the input components and imports of those specifically are not interrupted. And over a period of time, as we are working with the industry on developing these toy clusters, how do we enable creating this ecosystem of the ancillary industries that really start making us more self-reliant and self-dependent on sort of, ensuring that we are completely sourcing everything indigenously. So that's one. I think the other is also to encourage the growth of tooling manufacture in India. We need to eliminate some of these anomalies that occur. For example, domestic manufacturers needing to pay 18% GST, while there is actually no GST on tooling that is imported. The third, I think, is definitely to improve the labor laws. And I think in specifically in the case of the toy industry, I believe it's important to focus on hiring what we call as seasonal labor or surge staffing, because toy industry manufacturing also is quite seasonal. There's definitely investment in skill development that we need to do. So skilling labors and skilling the labor force, and not just once, in fact, because there is a constant shift. There's a constant innovation cycle that exists in toys. So at all points in time, I think almost every few years, we need to invest in skilling and upskilling labor continuously. And then finally, I think investment in technology. And this is something that Moin raised, which was a brilliant point. We have to first, at the initial stage, I think, partner with countries that have well-established toy manufacturing hubs, almost like a Vietnam or an Indonesia, and technologies such as digital physical prototyping, tool design, manufacture, sophisticated electronics, automated hair routing, inkjet printing. All of these, I think, are important aspects to be able to start manufacturing sophisticated quality products. And that, I think, can be enabled also by doing the right stages, by easing into the process rather than expecting that all of this will happen overnight. So I think those are just some of the directional suggestions that I had on how is it that we can start to make some changes around the regulatory reforms in India.
Bhavesh, I think it's a very helpful, and if I may just draw attention of QCI, and I know you are also on the FICCI panel, to have these short-term interventions be a part of those 16 action items which DPIIT is currently holding on, so that we at least address this right with fiscal, if possible, so that at least the things start rolling from here, while at the same time counting onto the larger big bag reforms, what you're talking about, institutionalizing what Vietnam has done or Malaysia has done, other countries have done. So these are very important, and Bhavesh, thank you so much. That was helpful.
Thanks.
So with the permission, I would like to draw attention of Manu Gupta. Manu, pick your thoughts on the quality assurance aspect about, especially when it comes to raw materials such as toxicity or fire hazard, vis-a-vis the ease of productivity for the manufacturer, because we are dealing with an unorganized sector to a larger extent. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, hi Mohit. I hope I'm audible. So I'll answer your question, but first I'd like to thank DPIT and QCI for recognizing toy as a sector first, and then designating it as a champion sector and identifying us as first amongst the economy. So, as Mr. Agarwal was pointing out, the industry should be happy. We not only are happy, we are also thankful to you. So, on that note, क्योंकि ये उद्योग मंथन है, तो ये चिंतन भी है, आत्मचिंतन भी है. For that we first need to identify कि समस्या क्या है. I'll come back to your question, Mohit. I'll just take 2 minutes before that. We need to identify the problem of the country. As Amitabh was rightly pointing out, आत्मनिर्भर भारत की बात जब होती है, self reliant India की जब बात होती है, तो we already have an established market of 15,000 crore on retail value. That is the opportunity we are looking at, and I believe that should be our first target, to import to make products so that we can substitute them the import entirely or at least majorly. Now to answer to your question, although there are no quality assurance mandatory guidelines in India, but BIS through its standard 9873 and through its product manual does focus and talk about the first area that a manufacturer should look into, and that remains the raw material. Most of the raw material that is coming from the, I'm talking about the plastic industry first, that is coming from the reputed suppliers like Reliance, IOC, Haldia, GAIL, is subject to quality test and adheres to all the international quality parameters that are globally set up. Since toys trade is a pretty diverse one, so as Amitabh was pointing out, so it is not only about plastic, it is about other things also. I believe that the parameters to look into from the manufacturer's perspective should be standardized, should be perhaps something like a checklist can be prepared of those, and that checklist can be widely circulated to the manufacturers so that they can identify the key focus area and can work on it. But there are no mandatory guidelines regarding the quality assurance of raw material in India.
Okay.
Over to you, Mohit.
Yeah. Okay, Manu. Thank you so much, Manu. Basically, what you're alluding to is putting a SOP or a checklist in place so that the approach, whatever we are having on the side of the manufacturer, is more standardized, and that can be done either through DPIIT or even through BIS. I think that's not a big task just to look at.
Aptly put.
Okay, thank you so much, Manu. That's helpful. I would like to draw attention of my other panel member, Ms. Swati Seth. Sorry, I'm not sure if the video is on, but I would like to talk about something on the brand India, right? We have been talking in the global forums about positioning, and especially in the last couple of years, the positioning of India as a global manufacturing hub has improved. We have got a decent share, decent visibility in the market. So what are your thoughts that, what is the current perception when it comes to Indian companies manufacturing toy for the world, and how can we further amplify or improve this?
Hi, Mohit. Thank you everybody for giving me an opportunity to be a part of this. I'm sorry, I'm facing some bad connectivity, so I'm unable to switch on my video. So, just to quickly tell you about myself, I am a social entrepreneur and I work in the craft sector, and we primarily make handmade toys. So, I think when we talk about brand India, unfortunately, India is, India is looked upon as a cheap alternative, as a source for cheap labor, mostly. When manufacturers or buyers want to purchase stuff from India, they think that India is a cheap option. The labor is cheap, especially if we're talking about the craft sector. So artisans are not even looked up as artisans. They are looked down as cheap laborers. So I think that needs to change. Change if you're talking about the communication and the whole branding of manufacturing in India, especially in this sector. I mean, the sector I come from, the craft sector.
I think that's quite a revealing information, at least to me, especially the way we are looking at our artisans. I think that's an internal positioning we need to improve for sure, and I definitely take a note of this. And I'll find forums to at least get this addressed in the multiple spectrum. But thank you so much. I would like to invite my next panelist, Manu Sharma. Manu, this is a completely different point we are bringing what Swati was talking about, and you currently manage Hamleys from India, and Hamley is now a proud Indian brand. How do you see Hamleys now supplying to the global ecosystem of toys from India? What are the two to three things what you are planning to do over the next few months in order to improve our positioning, because you are one of the key anchors from the Indian toy industry, especially the Indian-owned brand now. Manu?
Hi, Mohit. Thanks for bringing me in. I hope I'm clearly audible.
Yes.
Oh, somebody muted me. Thank you. First, like to thank everybody on this call to having me here. Quick thoughts on this, Mohit. First is the Indian traditional toys, and as I was talking to you the other day, we are pushing the cause of Indian traditional toys in a big way. We've created and branded, clearly the Indian traditional toys required somebody to hold them together, because these are coming from various small clusters. Artisans don't know how to get there in terms of getting reach and the right shelves, and we are ensuring that we create a brand which we've already conceived, and we've now put it in a couple of our flagships here. We want to take it global as a concept, and we will push it through because we now have the power of Hamleys globally. So that's one part of it, which I know is very, very dear to the heart of a Prime Minister and in general to us as well. and we will continue to push the Indian traditional toys in our scheme of things. That's one. The second thing is, Mohit, while we talk on quality and productivity and so much now, Hamleys, we've always been, since inception, been wedded to the fact that the toys that children buy from our stores will always be very high on quality, and we've always ensured there have been all the international testing norms have been followed on those toys. And we've taken hard calls not to have toys which we thought were substandard. What I've seen of late is a lot of Indian manufacturers, because they are also looking global, off late at least. If I were to go back 5 years, it was very, very hard to find people who would be able to provide you good quality toys. A very few handful of them. But in the last 3-4 years, I have seen quite a few young entrepreneurs. Good to see people coming from IITs, IIMs, setting up their startups to build toys. We've always supported them. And we are very, very happy to see that now they've gone global in their own way. So what I strongly believe is, Mohit, that innovation is a very, very strong ingredient in the success of a toy. I believe that Mattel, whenever it was built on that one Hot Wheels car, and it still is 40% or whatever that number is of their volumes. And that one strong toy can take you places. And we don't have to talk about the cookie cutter way of keep building ranges after ranges after ranges. That one toy, if you play it right, and if it is as per international standards, the concept is strong, you can go places. And that's also happened to at least 3-4 of our startup companies in India who are doing very, very well on toys. And that's what I will keep pushing. We will always push and support Indian toys. In fact, we are wedded to the fact that I've internally committed that we will constantly increase the share of India-produced toy in the Hamleys global ranges. And just to tell you, we are prototyping a lot of our top seller ranges that we sell across the globe in India. There's been a bit of a challenge and delay in terms of getting the quality right, because we are obsessed with quality. But I am hoping that we will be able to get there, and today in probably a smaller manner, but tomorrow, as the industry and the focus takes space, we will go very, very far in that. And I'm sure that in a few years we'll not have to look outside of India to produce any toys that Hamleys will sell anywhere in the world. And with our global plans of expansion, I'm sure we will be able to support this cause in a bigger and bigger way as every year passes.
Manu, thank you so much. I think that's quite encouraging, and I'm personally taking note of that so that we can have you embed into multiple Indian manufacturers who are aspiring to go global. And through your brand and the channel, I think it's quite doable. And thank you so much, Manu, for that. Now, I think I would like to keep the discussion floor slightly open, and would like to bring participants of other members whom possibly I have not been able to touch upon, and talk about some aspects. So I will throw the floor open and request other members to come in and speak with certain line of thinking, and then we pick ideas from those discussion to bring recommendations to the government. So the first point I want to touch upon is the new education policy. Now, that is a very massive reforms in making. The new education policy will draw a lot of attention in the days to come, especially the education sector, primary, pre-primary. And how can we bring the aspect of creativity or toy-based learning to our education system? So I would like to draw thoughts of my all the participants on the call, please. You have to just unmute your mic and share your thoughts, please.
स्क्रीनशॉट वगैरह भी बंदे मार
So Mohit, maybe if we can start off this conversation, I think it's a very important point that the government has looked at toys as being part of our educational process. As I touched upon earlier, toys plays a big role in a child's life, and I think learning through toys is very important. Maybe we can then get some participants to talk about how they perceive that, and how we can make this not only something that's available to the child through the whole educational process, but to also make it a commercial success for the toy company. So maybe if somebody has some viewpoints from that angle.
Even through academic curriculum, we can mandate a set of toys or even certain product types to be a part of the curriculum that will automatically give fillip to the commercial element of the manufacturing for sure. So any thoughts on that from my panel members or from the participants?
Yeah, hi Mohit, Manu again. See, government national education policy has appointed NCRT to make a kit of 39 products, out of which 23 are toys. Now, we have already recommended from Toy Association of India to NCRT that the toys to be procured in this kit should be indigenous. As everyone knows that government remains the biggest buyer or the biggest consumer of the consumer items worldwide. The same is the case with India. So that 39 item kit is being prepared by NCRT. It will be out in public soon. So that is one. There is a huge opportunity in preschool segment also, because earlier the preschools were not mandatory in every primary or senior secondary school. Now with the new education policy, they have given a window. They've in fact advised every primary and senior secondary school to have a pre-primary wing also. Now, a lot of opportunity will open up for the Montessori item manufacturers. A lot of opportunity will open up for the preschool items manufacturer, play equipment manufacturers. So these are two windows I'm looking at from national education policy.
Well, I think these are very interesting suggestions. It's still unfold.
I would like to add a few from my industry perspective. You know, there are a lot of mythology stories for our gods and other, aspects that can be taught at a junior level or a primary level. We receive a lot of demand for hand puppets for these types of characters and, mythological characters. So why can't we have a curriculum where we have certain stories which are to be depicted with hand puppets? So it makes more interesting to educate children about with the hand puppets and with a kind of movie background and everything. They can learn a lot. So evolving hand puppets in children education will help us a lot.
To add to your suggestion, Mr. Kohli, already hand puppet is in the list of the 39 items. Okay, that's very good. Thank you, Manu. As heard before you said it.
Mohit, I would like to just add one suggestion, if I may.
Please, Swati.
So while we're talking about educational toys, I think one point that we can keep in mind is making them more inclusive, in the sense keeping in mind that we also create toys for children with special needs.
Okay, noted. I think that is one category I know for sure is under consideration, Swati, but it's an important point. It's definitely an important point, because when we are looking at toys as a sector and designing a strategy for the development of overall sector, we are looking each of these segments in a very unique way. If the size of the overall sector is a matter of debate, but each of these subsectors, whether it is soft toys or board games or the user base, which is child with a special needs, in itself is a massive opportunity to create and serve the country as a market.
Mohit,
I would like to add something.
Please.
The World Economic Forum has identified 21 skills that children will need in tomorrow's world, like in the 21st century. All right. Now, I don't know the specifics of what is happening now, but maybe those skills, and most of those skills are all recommended to learn through action and play and physical learning, right? Maybe if those skills can be adapted, and all the skills are taught through toys, if those skills are adapted, it makes our not only the toys, it also brightens up the future of our children on the world stage.
Okay, Moez, I think this is an important point. We have taken a note. We will study these and see that how can we really bring these as horizontals from the enablement perspective of skill. While so any other thoughts from our panel member before I move to the next topic? Any other suggestion? I can see Mr. Agarwal wants to add some thoughts. Okay, so I would like to spend some few minutes in terms of talking about the platform through which we may like to sell toys to the larger base, while we have spent time in terms of understanding the manufacturing and the quality aspect of it. What kind of platforms do we recommend possibly for the government so that it reaches the last mile, it reaches the last right buyer and the audience in the remotest part? Any thoughts on the platform we may like to comment on?
I am Mohit, Manu again. Shabir ji, yeah, please go ahead. I'll join it later. Shabir ji?
हाँ जी,
आप कुछ बोलना चाह रहे थे या मैं बोलूं?
नहीं आप बोलिए मनु जी. हाँ
जी. Now this is a very important point, Mohit. In fact, I would like to point out to the example of the World Toy Factory China here. EVU happens to be their global commodity market, and the first item for which they opened that market was toys. So it is toys and textile were, in fact, I keep on saying this and keep on reporting this in every forum. Toys and textile were the two premier sectors in which Chinese build up their economies. Now, what can India do? India, as you rightly pointed out earlier, is coming up with a lot of toy manufacturing clusters. They are in Koppal, they're in Jewar, they're in Indore, they are also in Kushakheda, Rajasthan. Now, what we need is toy selling clusters. We were on a call with Chennai government a couple of weeks ago, sorry, and we proposed them to set up a toy selling cluster. Now, India is a very huge market in terms of demographics. So to cover that, we need to cover with toy marketing clusters. Now, these clusters can be set up in various parts of the country, and they can be on line of EVU or a Shento. So that is what we propose to the government.
Okay, Manu, I think that's an important point. Thank you so much for that. Any other member wants to make any suggestion?
Again, I would like to say, Manu, that's a fantastic idea. And I would also like to bring up another point is we've been studying these government tenders when it comes to toys. And what we realize is all the government tenders are extremely specific on the toy that is expected to be given over there. And it's so specific that it's almost like a particular product or a particular brand's product that is the only one that can be offered by all the people who are submitting tenders. If that could be expanded and not make it so centered to one product, if it could be more on what the product is expected to do, then I think a lot more efficiency will come into the system.
Well, I think I have a limited view on this because that may be either the specific requirement of that particular government entity, but if it is too specific for a brand, then I think it needs an attention. Maybe you may like to bring these particular opportunities or the RFPs to the notice of government so that they can study this and qualify it from that perspective. I actually personally, when I was browsing through the chat box, and I really like one idea which has come from Mr. Narayan Rao. It's an interesting idea. What Mr. Rao is suggesting, like we have libraries so-called compulsory in the school. Why not we have a toy collection rooms or toy collection center within the school, right? If we can have books as a compulsory mechanism to educate, why not toys? Imagine if this can be institutionalized. One, this needs to be studied. And imagine if this can be institutionalized, each school to have a toy collection or a toys room, the kind of fillip this will give to the industry with just one intimation on both the sides, from the creativity from the kids' perspective as well as from the market, the manufacturer like yourself, it will be a big opportunity. And I'm personally really impressed with this idea and like it in person. We'll definitely take a note and do this deliberation. Mr. Rao, thank you so much for this wonderful idea.
Mohit, I'd like to add to that. I think it's a fantastic idea. I think it's also an introduction to the school about toys, and therefore a child being able to play and the kind of skill sets they learn. I think it's an amazing idea and should be able to be implemented quite easily. And therefore, you're then bringing the school administrators in touch with toys where they may not have had any exposure to in the past. So I think this would be something that could be looked at by the government in making maybe a requirement in schools to have a toy library. It's an excellent idea.
Yeah, this is already being implemented by Toy Association and Government of Delhi.
No, I would like to add on, this is being implemented by the MPs of Delhi. In fact, I personally have donated 6 libraries. So they're all functional libraries. 3 of them are in Delhi, 1 is in Saharanpur, 1 is in Chitrakoot, and another one is in Varanasi. So this idea has already been with Ministry of Women and Child Development also. And we are asking them to convert every Anganwadi center into a toy collection center also. Now, Mohit, you can see the outreach. We have got couple of lakh Anganwadis in India. I mean, sorry, we have got 1 million Anganwadis in India. If we can convert them into toy libraries also, then the kind of reach and kind of impact that will have, it will be fantastic. So thank you, Mr. Naran Rao, for bringing this up, and thank you, Mohit, for taking it up. Thank you.
Hi, Mohit.
Yes.
Myself Abhinav, and I'm from Pavon Technologies. So I would like to add here is I'm a mentor of change under Atal Innovation Mission. So already there's a program being run by the establishment of Atal Tinkering Labs in all over the schools by Niti Aayog directly. So I think that was the best program under which all the labs and the sponsorship of the toys, buying of toys and regulators, all can be covered by Niti Aayog. And then they can establish those, the labs there alongside Atal Tinkering Labs itself. So one of the best students, those who are really want to come up with some designing part or something part, they can be pushed in and they can be, introduced to the industry later.
Yeah. Okay, so you're saying along with Atal Tinkering Lab, which I think to a greater extent is in motion, and we have quite a few schools adopted this concept. So you want to say that we should ride on this initiative and bring the toys under this particular umbrella.
Right.
That is quite an possible ask, I believe, because this is happening as we speak. And aligning toys, and especially the creative thinking enablement toys, could be a good thing for us to have. Maybe why not a toy period? We have sports classes, so why not this kind of element? I also have picked up another interesting point, what one of the panelists in the chat box have said. How do you see the toy industry perceive COVID? I think market is bound to grow, especially with these kind of initiatives. Each and every ministry have talking about toys, government organizing a fair. This industry is bound to grow. I am personally quite bullish about this. COVID is just a pass-through phase. You all should be in the next call seeing this as over. So it's a matter of time, and industry is bound to grow as we speak, because everyone is making an effort, especially 160 members from the industry who are on the call today are attempting to grow this sector. So I think that's all from my side. I would like to draw QCI members who are on the call. Is there anything else as a question which you want to address in this forum, and one of our panel member can answer that?
आज आएगा मिल 6 बजे फिर एक मीटिंग इंटरनल मीटिंग रहती है, उसको बोलो यहाँ पे बैठेगा। विशाल आ जाओ, थोड़ी देर बैठ जाओ, इधर आ जाओ।
Okay. So there's another question which I can see, that how can we expect shift sourcing from China to India by the global toy retailers? Any of my panel member would like to take up this particular thing, because I know you all are working in some form to address the dependency on China, especially from the import of product or even the raw material.
Yes, Mohit. So this covers my area. So I'm primarily into export of toys. So the trend is shifting towards moving out of China. Whether the global retailers shift into India or not depends upon how well we are able to adapt our processing system to meet their compliance requirements. The global retailers have to follow a very strict compliance methodology, which ultimately boils down to their suppliers meeting. Till such time they're aware of requirement and upgrade our processes to meet them, we would not be in a position to tap onto this market. So there is a huge opportunity here. The advent of QCO has really pushed the process of quality to our with our manufacturers, and hopefully we should be able to see lot more companies setting up their own labs, setting up their own quality control processes, so that in a year or two they can directly tap the opportunities with global retailers. The other aspect in this is that the global retailers do not want to change their products too much. Hence, the supply chain that they're getting out of China, the raw materials that they're using in their products made in China or Vietnam, they would want to use the same raw materials here. This becomes a stumbling block in terms of the limited supply chain that we have, the limited availability that we have. So this is where I think the government should definitely look at how to allow toy manufacturers to ease out their supply chain, wherein they can import materials duty free against a production linked incentive scheme, which can similar to what is being done in mobile phone industry. And if some scheme of this type is given, then the toy industry can definitely grow leaps and bounds.
Amitabh, I think, thank you. These are all valid points. To the best of my knowledge, this is in making as we speak. So hopefully this will get addressed. I think, Bhavesh, you want to make some thoughts here?
Yeah, Mohit, I think, speaking from actually seeing the implementation of something like this happen over the last 5 years, Hasbro's experience has been quite extensive, in this entire process. So, right from working with very specialized manufacturers, getting it to a scale where today, most of the exports that happen from India are actually kind of, driven by Hasbro. It's got to this stage, honestly, Mohit, and to tell you the truth, I don't think there is necessarily a dearth of capability or technology in the country. The only challenge that we need to circumvent is, the challenge of time, honestly speaking. It's about how long, this takes, and it's not an overnight process at all. So just to let you know, I know Hasbro's reliance on China was very high from an import standpoint. It's already shifting quite significantly in favor of India, where we envisage that over the next 5 years, a very large portion of our global exports will be fulfilled by India. And this is happening. It's already a plan that's in motion, but it is something that is going to take quite a lot of time, and I think that's genuinely a factor that we need to take into consideration.
I couldn't agree with you more, Bhavesh. I think absolutely apt on to the point. So I think with this, we have done with the round of questions which I have picked up, and some of our chat participants have affirmatively confirmed the process. So Rutanil, with this, I would like to take a pause on the from the QCI perspective, you would make some closure thoughts here.
you so
Can't hear.
Sorry, we can't hear you.
Or now,
Yes, now you're visible. Yes.
their microphones. Am I audible now?
Yes.
Right. Thank you so much. So I express my gratitude to all our analysts as well as most very.
They are cutting in and out.
Yeah. So checking now. Is this okay?
Yes, please.
I'll quickly waiting with the
No,
desired. So
So, Runil, I think you're breaking out in between. So let me come in. So allow me to take this opportunity to thank all of my all of my participants, and especially DPIT for setting up this forum. I think we have picked up some very interesting point which possibly can form the foundation for the growth of this sector. And on behalf of KPMG, I would like to personally thank all of you for spending your time and giving this valued input. And hopefully, this is the beginning of our conversation and a long way to go for us to interact and build henceforth. So, thank you so much for your time and a wonderful evening. Rutunil, if you can hear me,
yes, I can. Mohit.
Please, you would like to close the call with any last thoughts?
I'm just immensely grateful to you, Mohit, as well as all our panelists for engaging in this discussion today. We definitely hope that we work on the items that you have suggested and give very specific action-oriented suggestions for the industry as well as for the government to work on in the coming few months and years ahead of us in bringing more energy into the toy sector at large. So thank you everyone, and including all our participants for trusting in this space and engaging in this discussion. Thank you so much.
Manegiri.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. So with this, we close the first session of Udyog Manthan 2021. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Runil.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
है वो लाइन जा रहा होगा यार, इसको बंद करते हैं। यही खत्म कर दिया। ओपीएस स्टूडियो भी बंद कर दिया। सेव करना सेव। कहाँ पे सेव कराया था आपने? डेस्कटॉप पे। एक बार देख लेते हैं उसको ना कैसे रिपोर्ट है। रिलेटेड ये है, इसमें बंद कर दीजिए, क्लोज कर दो। अरे भाई वो ओबीएस स्टूडियो भी बंद कर दो। ये एमपीसी केस पे जा रहा हूँ।